We had to bring in our expert here to give us a breakdown of what a coach brings to the table from an all-22 perspective and a reputation perspective. It's Dominic Robinson, lead football analyst, Warchant.com, and we are talking about Brennan Marion, Florida State's leading offensive coordinator, and his reputation in the business, or what the film says about who he is. So, Dominic, you're out there on that side of the country. Brennan's making waves everywhere in the United States, but I'm wondering, the go-go offense, it's all the rage, especially in coaching circles. Do you believe the hype about the go-go offense, and what have you learned about Brennan Marion in your last little while watching UNLV football?
I would say no. I don't believe the hype. Now, Coach Marion, I like a lot. I've actually known him, for a while. And then our paths have crossed a bunch when he was at Pitt. And then, most recently when he was at Texas, have had some conversations with him. Great dude, very good football coach. There's a reason why he's getting the buzz that he's getting. He deserves it. And what he's doing at UNLV is off the charts. But in terms of what we're going to be hearing, if he is to be hired, whether either that's at Florida State or elsewhere, because I'm hearing a lot of buzz about him in a lot of places in terms of not only head coaching or OC jobs, but head coaching jobs also. So, he deserves it. He deserves the hype, but we're going to hear a lot about this go-go offense, this innovative go-go offense. And some of the things that he does, it is very interesting. It is very unique. He does have a real unique, creative look into offense and creating offense. He spent a lot of time in places with lower resources, less athletes. He's a high school coach by trade, to start. He was at William and Mary. I think that was when our paths first crossed. And so, he took a lot of jobs early on where the offenses were the worst offenses in the conference. And so you got to be creative. You got to do something new, especially if your players aren't very good. He was at Howard at some point. When he was at Howard, he had an offensive lineman that was 225 pounds. So you got to be real creative if your offensive line is 225 pounds.
God.
So yeah. And so, that's sort of the origin of the go-go kind of comes from the idea that he really wanted to run the triple option, but he didn't want to eliminate some of the passing game element to it. And so you kind of get creative with your backfield alignments. And so it does create some, issues with the defense and, forces them to be sound in terms of option football, which is why people run the option. Is it forces you to be disciplined for 4 quarters for, 60 to 70 to 80 snaps. But in terms of the actual go-go offense, it's you're going to hear a lot more buzz about it than substance that it actually has. Really, when you watch his offense, it's no different than any of the other spread offenses that you're seeing. It's just more of a 2-back flavor, and the backs are in unique alignments. And then there's a lot of times he uses like a split flow guy or a sniffer, what he calls a sniffer, or what a lot of teams call a sniffer back, which is more of a fullback, H-back, tight end who is doing fullbacky, old school fullback type stuff. So I think that's the unique spin that the go-go offense brings, is that, right now everyone was, I say not anymore. Now everyone's kind of going to the 12 and 21 personnel from the 49ers Shanahan stuff. But what everyone was doing was spreading out, and now everyone's coming back in. So he's going to be the hot name because he's got, a good look at some 2-back, using Y or H-back off sets that, are kind of coming back in vogue.
So as a football purist, you would say there's nothing new under the sun. It's just it's cyclical, football cyclical. So it's not like he's a mad scientist who's doing something that's never been seen before. But, and the second part to that question, but are you saying that you still respect his acumen as an offensive coordinator and play caller and from a coaching standpoint? So I'm trying to discern that. Are you Am I correct
Yeah.
in hearing what you're saying, that he's not a mad scientist per se, but he's very good at being an offensive coordinator and play caller? Is that correct?
There are guys out there that are doing more sort of creative or sort of different, more innovative. I guess that's the word I'm looking for. There are guys out there that are doing more things innovatively offensively. In terms of, now, this is what I'm seeing at UNLV. Now, I want to tell you that going back to some of his old days at William and Mary and some of the other places that he's been, he's gotten pretty funky with some of the stuff he's done. But I just looked at his first and last game at UNLV, because they switched if you guys know the quarterback issue that they had. Their quarterback decided to sit out the rest of the season because he didn't get the NIL money that he was promised. And the kid was pretty good. He's actually a really good player. I think he's going to, get a good deal, when the portal opens. So they had to go to the backup quarterback, and they kept winning, and that's a lot of reason why he's getting a lot of this attention. Is they're I think they're a one-loss team with their backup quarterback, at a small school. So what they're doing specifically at UNLV isn't some crazy innovative thing. There's guys out there that are doing things more innovative, that are way different. You're not going to turn it on, and every once in a while, once a quarter, you might go, whoa, I've never seen that before. But it's not like he's playing 4 quarters of, wow, I've never seen these plays or these concepts. He's running the same plays that you've seen Coach Norvell run, or any offensive coordinator run. He personally, I'm saying, is a good coach that runs good schemes and all of that. But it's not something where you're just like, wow, we're bringing in this crazy new innovative offense that's going to look something way different from anything that we've seen before.
So, okay, a follow-up there. I heard you mention Norvell. When you say things like H-back, that's a trigger word for me to know, because Norvell, in theory, loves using that particular position on the field. So I'm going to ask you about the fit with Norvell's concepts. I know that obviously there's a connection that they've had there, but Brennan Marion's been so many different places. He's worked with Mark Whipple and Steve Sarkisian and Gus Malzahn. So and I know Gus and Mike are tied together, but my point is he's been a lot of different places with a lot of different theory. And so how do the two of them fit? And then also, to me, just from the outside, it sounds like when a coach is proud of the fact that he can do more with less, he's going to have less here next year. No matter if he comes to Florida State and he is the offensive coordinator, they could have a great portal haul. They could have a very nice recruiting class and do some excellent developing. They're still going to be operating at a deficiency, especially when they kick off against a team like Alabama next year to start the season. So your thoughts on all that, Dominic?
Yeah. So I don't see any Whipple and I don't see any Sark. Now, I'm not saying that that's not in there. But I know Sark really well. Sark grew up in the area, the same area that I grew up in. We've known each other for a really long time. And, I spent a lot of time with Sark last year or 2 years ago, studied Sark. I don't see much Sark in what he's doing. And I don't see much Whipple, but I see a lot of Malzahn. I think one of the big staples that you see with Brennan Marion is his teams go fast. They go really fast. And I think that's something that Coach Norvell was doing early on when Kenny Dillingham was here. And it's kind of gone away from that. Obviously, you had to go away from it this year. One thing, you can't go fast if you're not going to get first downs, because then you really put your defense in a bind. So you couldn't go fast this year, obviously. I think they went at a decent pace when Jordan was playing quarterback. But early on in Jordan's career, I felt like Kenny was really trying to go, extra fast. So we may see, if they do hire Brennan Marion, we may see a return to that. His teams play incredibly fast, and that's the Gus Malzahn. He's kind of got the signature on that. So I do see some Malzahn. I don't see much Norvell, to be honest, other than the fact that it's 2 back. It's a lot of 2 back. And when I studied Memphis and I did a breakdown, it might have been right after we hired Coach Norvell, or might have been right before, but I studied everything he did at Memphis. I watched every game, and I watched a couple games twice, the conference championship games against Cincinnati, because at that time, the Notre Dame coach was at Cincinnati, Marcus Freeman, and their defense was hot. And so I watched to kind of see like who is Coach Norvell, and I saw he really liked to be in two-back, and used an H-back type guy and used the other back in the passing game. So I do see a little bit of that in Marion, but I see no counter at all. I hadn't seen a counter play yet. And when I watched a clinic of him, he talked about inside zone and wide zone, inside and outside zone, and really he kind of even expressed like, hey, we like to get off on the ball. We don't like to pull guards. Now that may go back to, again, he's never had, much talent. And so they kind of feel like that's a way that they can gain an advantage is just by running the RPO game. And they think that they can only block guys if they're just, running duo, which is like double teams, to move the down lineman. So I don't see in terms of, to be honest, I'm interested, as I was even when Alex Atkins was here, is how much influence and say does this guy actually have in the room? I think him having a relationship with Coach Norvell, a previous relationship, is huge. I think that's really, really big, and that's really, really important. And that's one reason why I think this would be a good hire. I don't think this is – people are going to kill me because everyone wants to be super optimistic right now because we suck so bad and we don't have much to be optimistic about. Mm-hmm. This isn't like, ring the bells and celebrate and start popping the champagne for the 10-2 season next year. Like, yeah. He's a very good coach. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know how much, power and influence he's going to have in the room. Just like I said, I don't know how much Alex Atkins had. I don't know. And I don't know if he's going to be calling the plays. I don't necessarily see a pattern of phenomenal play calling from him. I see a good structure, and, he does a good job. One thing that I don't know if it fits really well with Coach Norvell is the dude loves gadgets, like loves gadgets. And again, this may just be because he has had less talent, and so he's had to do that. But you will see double passes, reverses, reverse double passes, reverse pass, double throwbacks. I mean, and one thing he says is like, I'm going to maximize the portfolio of all of my players. So he's going to tell you, like, if that guy was a high school quarterback, he's going to throw a pass in a game, and probably multiple. So there's a lot of gadget stuff. At one point he was at William and Mary. They had 4 quarterbacks on the roster. It was his first year as OC. Nobody knew who the starting quarterback was. So on the first play of the game, all 4 quarterbacks were on the field.
Oh, jeez.
He played with all 4 quarterbacks. They ran a double reverse, and one of the quarterbacks threw a deep ball, deep post, and they completed his big explosive play to start the game, to start the season. I'm sure the kids love that. Everybody's excited. But, so I don't know if that really fits with – I hadn't seen Coach Norvell as a gimmicky gadget play type of guy, So do you bring him in, and does that spark some creativity after a losing season? Is Norvell saying, hey, I'm going to turn some of this loose that I usually am not good with, I'm not comfortable with? Those would be things that I think are sort of, remain to be seen. But a lot of quarterback runs, the offense, you're going to see a lot of quarterback runs. And so, maybe that's something that Coach Norvell wants to get to, because he felt like he was handcuffed with DJ this year, or maybe he feels like just within his offense, he's gotten stale, with quarterback run game. But I think Coach Marion is really good. The system, the go-go system, does lend itself very well for quarterback runs because of how fast they go, and everything has an RPO or a pass off of it. And so, those are things that, we will never really know for sure because we're not in the room, sort of what the intentions are,
Yep.
and sort of who's spearheading that movement, but it's going to be really interesting to watch.
So at least, a lot of times, this, Dominic, when a coach is asked about that, Jimbo Fisher was like this here at Florida State. He was at A&M as well. Asked about relinquishing play calling, relinquishing that part of the job. Sometimes they won't even entertain the question. They'll dodge it. They'll bob and weave, and they won't answer it straight up. Mike has been, for the better part of a month and a half now, saying, I don't have an ego problem. If we need to turn over play calling, we will. It's open. Everything's on the table. So that's one step more than many offensive minds who fancy themselves, the brightest mind in the business will go. And then behind the scenes, it sounds like if Marion took the job, it would be under the condition that would be his car to drive. So we'll see. But I do want to pivot because I know people, when they see you on the screen, they also know that all 22 is coming. So what kind of plays do you have, and what kind of information can you provide in the demonstration element of what Brennan Marion brings to the table?
Yeah, so the main element of the go-go offense that will kind of jump out of the screen at people is, the two-back alignment with both backs on the same side. And so now that's something that's, incredibly unique. You also have a potential to have 4 strong, or, in this case, it's 4 into the boundary. So this is the short side of the field. And so you have the potential to have 4 pass threats to this side. You can really overload this side, and it makes it really simple for the quarterback in terms of the read and the numbers. We've got 4 over here. If you don't have 4, then you're going to have a problem, with us running the ball over here. So, I think that's, what would jump out at the screen, or jump off the screen to people is just in the go-go offense is 2 backs and both of the backs being at the same time. But once the ball's snapped, all this is just, typical, triple option, where he has an option to give the ball right here. He has an option to keep the ball right here. And in this case, it's actually not even triple option. And then he's got the option to give it or keep it here. Okay. So this is this play is just called zone bluff. The bluff is, this is typically a guy who would be right here.
Mm-hmm.
And he would come around and he's going to bluff this guy. He's not going to block him. And that guy has to make a decision. Does he go chase the zone away, or does he play the quarterback? So that's, that all this is you just take a traditional job, a traditional H, and you put him right here, and you have him do the same job, just from a different spot, which makes the defense has to be more disciplined with their eyes, and it makes it harder in terms of preparation throughout the week, because these guys are doing jobs that they in areas that they don't normally do. All right.
Is there any advantage to the alignment? It gets you a step closer, maybe 2 steps closer to that particular assignment, whatever you're trying to have the H-back carry out?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it does. That's also part of it, is like, if you're going to do a job over here, now we can set you up where you do a job over here. You're in better position or alignment to do that. And at the same time, we are in better position to run a counter off of that, because now they're going to expect you to be over here because you're already over there.
Mm-hmm.
And now I can run my counter off of that, whatever that is, whether that's a pass, or, whether that's actually making that a true triple option, and that guy sort of steps back and, becomes sort of a swing or pitch man. You can do different things with it. Okay, so here's another example of, something similar to, what I saw with Coach Norvell at Memphis was a split back set. And, the difference is he's got his hand down because this is like a true fullback. But that's a little bit different. But I saw a lot of split back stuff with Coach Norvell at Memphis, and we haven't seen it a bunch at Florida State. And this is just, again, this is a split zone. Okay, so this is an inside zone play. The traditional offense that we face, that all of us are facing now on Fridays and Saturdays, has that guy right here. So this guy is normally right here. The ball is snapped. He comes back and he seals the edge. We're going to block inside. That's why it's called inside zone. We're going to block the man on or inside. Every offensive lineman has their assignment is to block the man on or inside, and then the split flow guy is going to block the remaining end. They just put him in the backfield, gives him a little bit better head of steam in terms of getting downhill, and that's something that Coach Marion talks about is like their runners getting downhill. He likes downhill runs. That's why he doesn't run counter or doesn't believe in counter, is because it's not a downhill run.
Is exactly the opposite of what Florida State does. You're talking about a lot of lateral to create vertical, but it looks like he's using vertical to create vertical.
Correct. Yeah, and that's from what I can see, that's a staple of something that Coach Marion believes in, and the concepts that he runs kind of tells me that. Okay, so like I said, they like a lot of quarterback runs, or Coach Marion, usually likes to run quarterback runs. They typically line up in two back sets. So they line up in two back sets. They, motion the back out. That's probably a wide receiver. I think one of the things I saw with his offense too is a lot of switching in personnel, changing personnel. That is the H-back or fullback that's in the backfield right now. So essentially they don't have a running back in the game. And, and what you're going to see is sort of a pin and pull, quarterback run here. So in this game, the quarterback didn't throw for a whole lot of yards, but I believe he ran for like 114 or 117. And then the running back also had 100 yards rushing, and this is Houston that they're playing, and they beat Houston. But again, in terms of the quote unquote go offense, there isn't much here that's different from any other offense. The two guys are on the same side. That's a little bit funky. But in terms of like, if I'm a defensive coordinator, this does nothing. That's not anything that would change what we do defensively. Mm-hmm. I don't have to coach them any differently for that motion. All that is this wide receiver right here, which would be your Z. All that is him going across, right? Which is a motion that we handle. That's a traditional motion. So, again, the go part of it is essentially the two guys are on the same side, but in reality, all this is a deuce set, which is two wide receivers on one side and the tight end and a Z on the other side, and then the guy goes in motion. So nothing real crazy or special there. And and then they're just running pin and pull. So yeah, the the guard's pulling around, the Y or tight end and tackle are blocking down, and then you have the fullback, which is in this personnel is great. You have a running back there. You're probably not going to get a lot of physicality. Now this guy ends up not having to block anyone on this play, which is you love. If it's blocked so well up front that your lead blocker doesn't have to block anyone. Yeah. But quarterback does a good job. Again, you see him getting, I heard him talk about one cut runs in the clinic that I watched him. You see this guy's getting outside, he's one cut and he's getting vertical. Guys are falling forward. These guys, they do a really good job up front with their stuff. It's not real dynamic in terms of they don't do a whole lot. It's inside zone, duo, And and then it's a lot of zone read and zone RPOs, where they're putting the guys in conflict, second level players in conflict, and then getting the ball out to their playmakers in their hands and letting them go. I heard him talk about maximizing a guy's portfolio. It's like whatever a guy does well, we're gonna give him an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I heard him say in an interview with On3's Andy Staples that people are telling me it's a complex offense. This is Brennan Marion speaking. But if you ask our offensive line coach, they have basically 4 concepts, 4 plays they need to run. That's about it. And so you make it easier on them. But then the whole thing for him is that the quarterback plays fast. We'll leave it with this on Brennan. If it does happen, and I'll give you the condition, Dominic, that Brennan taking the job means by definition that he is going to install his vision. Mike Norvell has allowed for that to happen, and so there's no, dynamics where it's a mixed message behind the scenes. And you're a Florida State guy. How do you feel about the move?
That's a complex question, man. Again, as a coach, me being a coach, being so passionate about the coaching profession, there's so many factors, and more than anything, hopefully he can recruit and they can bring in more talent. And if they do that, it's going to be a great hire. They're going to have success, but there's so many more factors to it than like, is the offense good? In terms schematically, there's so many more factors, and does he connect with the players? Do they play hard for him? Again, do they develop? Hopefully there's something about what he's learned, coaching with Sark, over at Texas. I know Sark does a phenomenal job developing his players, and they're prepared to play. Just look at like Arch's situation, for instance. Quinn Ewers goes down, they don't really miss a beat with Arch, because that guy was prepared to play. And so you're hoping that there's that type of situation where Brennan Marion can bring something to the table that hasn't been there in terms of development of guys who aren't playing every snap on Saturdays, because that's something that I felt like was very heavy on this team. We're seeing guys for the first time and they look like first time players, consistently. And this is both on offense and defense. So yeah, it's the offense is fine, but I just think it's so much bigger than just the offense schematically. I don't think that this is like a slam dunk. Like I said, this isn't like, okay, we're going, 10-2 and we're back to winning the ACC and, that type of thing. But it's he's going to be the hot name. It's, you feel good about that at least.
Yeah.
That, you feel good. There's not going to be a hotter name in terms of, offensive, coordinator candidates, unless it's somebody from the NFL. So that's impressive that we could get that person after having a historically bad season, so you feel good at least about that side of it.
And if he does take the job, and this is of course all conditional on what Marion will be. That's why there's a few plays and the general overview of his repertoire of what he is as a play caller. But if Marion does take the job and become the next offensive coordinator at Florida State, you can believe that we will be doing a deep dive. Dominic has done this now for coordinators, for transfer players, in season for Florida State. If you're brand new to the channel and you're liking what you're seeing, check out more from Dominic Robinson, X's and O's that we've seen this season, past years. You will be impressed, and that's what will be coming whenever Florida State names their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator. We're looking at both sides of the football. Dominic's strength, he's played both sides. He knows how to coach both sides, schematically read through it, explain it. That's what's here on Warchant TV. So as you leave us today, make sure to hit the thumbs up underneath the video, subscribe to the channel. It is absolutely free, and we will be with you for all the breaking news on Warchant.com and Warchant TV as Florida State goes from candidates to choices for their 2 coordinators. Dominic, I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Go Noles.